As longtime wrestling fans, Andy, I would say that it's hard to surprise us. Those of us who watch the shows regularly, who are talking heads and we sit and analyze the show, I feel like it's hard to surprise us. But Andy, this past Saturday, we got surprised. Welcome to Squared Circle Radio Live. Let's get into it. Andy, our truth is back, and it is a wild thing.
Yeah, it is. Seeing what we saw Saturday night and then seeing what we got tonight. I mean, it's I didn't expect to get here. I didn't expect to be at this point this time last week when we were diving into everything and talking about it. But I'm very excited to see where this goes. I am so excited to talk about it all.
It's an oxymoron that Aaron Grisham is blowing up in the chat, and he says, truth is dead. Killings, the same thing as dead, is alive. Leave it to Aaron to be a little oxymoronish. I'm not calling you a moron, Aaron. I'm just saying I just opened up a can of worms, and he can take that wherever he wants to. If you are watching us live, please interact with us in the chat, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We would appreciate that support so much. If you're just listening on podcast, just follow on whatever platform you're on. We would appreciate that. Before we get to our truth, before we get to Ron Killings, because that is a huge, he's on the thumbnail. He's the talk of the world of wrestling right now. We have to talk about what just transpired at the end of Monday Night Raw. Andy, Gunther regains the World Heavyweight Championship, and we said surprised with Ron Killings. I'm surprised that Gunther's retaining and that we don't have a new champion in Seth Rollins. Instead, it's Gunther. Everybody seemed to have that one, quote, nailed down, and we all missed it.
Yeah, we did. And I was not expecting Gunther walking out as world champ. Right. I really don't know how I feel about it. I think match wise, this was the best match these two guys have had. Easily the best match these two guys
away, yes, 100%.
It was fantastic from start to finish. I'm always going to be happy when Gunther has a belt. That's just Gunther's my guy. I'm always going to be happy when Gunther has a belt.
He looks great with a belt. He does. He really does.
He does. I wish we'd got more out of Jey's run though. Like I really do. I feel like we were just kind of getting started with it.
I agree.
And it just abruptly came to an end. I kind of have a theory as to why that might have come to an end, which I'm sure we'll talk about here in a little bit. But I was waiting like the whole time when they were putting the sleeper on each other. I was waiting for that stomp to come from out of nowhere, stomping either Gunther or stomping Jey, and then we head into that cash in moment. I'm kind of glad we didn't get the cash in tonight, but it's definitely thrown a wrinkle into things having Gunther now be world champ and seeing where we go from here.
Bryce, I see your comment there. I will get to that because we are going to talk truth. I'll get to that. Aaron with a fun ad here. Is Jey the secret addition for King of the Ring?
It's a possibility.
It's very possible. Very possible. I will say this though, Andy, the stipulation for King of the Ring, and we're going to get into that either on tonight's episode or on Wednesdays. So make sure that you guys are tuned into the channel. If you're not up on what we're doing recently, we are dropping 2 episodes a week now, 2 brand new episodes. So make sure that you're tuned in. If he's not the addition, a couple of guys that you could think that it would be, but if he is the addition, Andy, I'll be honest, I don't want to see another match between these two guys. Like I'm done. Yeah. We saw the Saturday Night's main event, we saw WrestleMania, and now we saw tonight. I think tonight was a great bow to put on this. Where Jey goes from here, I don't know, but I don't want it. Jey can be in it if he's going to lose it. I don't want him to win and to run this back again.
Yeah, if Seth would have won the title tonight, if he'd have cashed in and won, then I would say Jey Uso could be in it, and I would want him to win to set up that for SummerSlam. Yes. Mm-hmm. But I kind of agree. I think, especially with how good the match was tonight, that was a perfect way to end, at least for now, this rivalry between Jey and Gunther. Again, though, I don't know where Jey goes from here. obviously he is the most popular guy on Monday Night Raw, and so he's going to have something to do. He has to have something to do. But I don't know what that is right off the top of my head, and that's kind of frustrating and a little makes me a little apprehensive about why they did what they did tonight. Is because hopefully they have something planned for him from here on out, and not just like, okay, you had your moment, you had your WrestleMania moment, you're popular, yeah, we get that, but now we're just going to kind of move on from you and keep going. So I don't know. Like, I really don't know what's next for Jey, but I agree with you. I think this was the best way to at least maybe not put a bow on the rivalry, but put a pin in it for a long time.
Yes.
Until we can revisit it at some point down the line.
Completely agree, because it's not nearly, with Jey not being champion, it's not nearly as captivating with Rollins having the briefcase, because it's not like he's going to sneak up on Gunther. It's way more interesting for him to sneak up on Jey. And I sort of thought we were headed towards Rollins and Jey for SummerSlam. If you're looking at, what is next for Jey. But Andy, you tweeted right before we came on about an idea you think is probably next for Gunther. Do share with the lovely listeners of Squared Circle Radio.
Yeah, I think as he won, the only thought that came into my mind was they did this just for Goldberg. Like, Goldberg's retirement match at Saturday night's main event in Atlanta is going to be for that world title, and I can already picture it right now. I knock on wood, I don't think he wins it. I hope he doesn't win it. I pray he doesn't win it. I will do whatever it takes for him not to win it. But I do think we are heading to Gunther versus Goldberg for that world title one last time. Goldberg gets his opportunity. Maybe it's career versus title, something like that. I don't know.
Aaron says, please, God, no.
I agree.
I think Andy's right, because it seems that Goldberg only comes back when it's convenient to get a championship match, because why else would Goldberg come back? So I think you're right. It makes sense that it would be in Saturday night's main event, the weekend of the Evolution pay-per-view in Atlanta. I sort of thought SummerSlam. I don't know what you do with Gunther at SummerSlam again, unless we circle right back to what Aaron said in the chat. Jey wins King of the Ring, and we get another match between these two at SummerSlam. I'm not quite sure. It's very interesting, Andy. I'm with you. I'm going to circle back to what you said just a few minutes ago. I felt like we were just getting started with the Jey Uso championship run. He was actually starting to build some. Oh my. Aaron Grisham in the chat, breaking: Goldberg just injured Bret Hart again per sources. Yeah, and Bret Hart's already complaining about it. Like, it's just par for the course. All right.
To be fair, that's something that I would probably complain about a lot too if that ended my career.
That's true, but Bret Hart's just a natural complainer, so it's fine. Anyway, before we get too far into the weeds here, I don't remember what I was going to say now. Jey Uso. What was I even talking about?
Goldberg,
Oh, look at you, Andy. Look at you. No, I had a point about Jey Uso, and I don't remember what it was now. Oh my gosh, I can't stand you. It's very interesting. Oh, I know where I was going. Yeah, it just seems like we're just getting started with Jey Uso's championship run. Like, Seth Rollins was the first real. I mean, yeah, Logan Paul, but Seth Rollins was the real first challenger that we could get invested in and be like, oh, I want Jey to beat this guy. I want Jey to beat this guy. And we saw the match on a one-off, and it was a DQ, and that was that. I mean, I know, Andy, we talked about we don't want to beat Rollins right now because Rollins is trying to build momentum with this group. Andy, I'm just curious, not to circle back to the Goldberg thing, but I'm just curious as to why this happened tonight. I'm let them cook, as they say, but I just don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know either, and it kind of puzzles me too, because I'm running through people on my list of like top contenders Jey could face as world champ, but every name I've come up with is like, oh no, they probably need to win too, so let's not put them against the world title.
Right.
Like AJ Styles versus Jey Uso. If you want to make Jey feel like a competitor, put him in there with AJ. AJ kind of needs a lot of wins right now to keep going.
Yes, he does.
Finn Balor is another one. Yeah, he could be in there with Jey Uso. Finn needs a lot of wins right now.
Yep.
So like there's names that he could go up against, but I feel like that's the theme of Monday Night Raw is you've got Seth and Punk and Jey and Gunther at the top, and then everybody else is like there, but they all need to get wins. So I don't know.
Do you think it's a situation where that's why they did it? It's because we really don't have a whole lot left for Jey as far as opponents go, but you could probably have more opponents for Gunther. For example, what just popped in my head, we're going to talk about it in just a minute. CM Punk versus Gunther at SummerSlam.
Yeah.
That makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, it does.
City Kitty in the chat. Thank you. Great match, but didn't want to see Jey lose the title. I think we're both with you. Go ahead, Andy.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I think, we saw LA Knight show up on Raw tonight. Maybe he's making the move over to Monday night.
Yeah.
Gunther versus LA Knight. I think that's a possibility. I mean, listen, we don't know how quickly they're going to build up this Ron Killings character. You don't know what you're going to get from a guy like him. So who knows what they're building up to. Sami Zayn versus Gunther. I could see Sami being a guy to take the title off of Gunther, finally getting that big win. So yeah, I think you're right. I think there's more opportunities. But I also think that's just partly because they haven't done a great job of building up heels to get wins,
right,
and to be credible threats to world titles.
For sure. Let's circle back now we'll just kind of see where it goes from here. I don't know. It'll be really interesting. Yeah. Probably the immediate future is Goldberg, and then we'll see what happens at SummerSlam. We appreciate you guys being tuned in live. Make sure, again, the chat is popping, as Aaron Grisham would say, like an R-Truth surprise return. Let's get into that, Andy. Ron Killings, not R-Truth. Ron Killings makes his surprise return this past Saturday at Money in the Bank. Now, before we start flapping our gums about what happened and what didn't happen and what we liked and what we didn't like and blah, 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 full disclosure right now, what Andy and I are about to do, and Andy will agree with me. He doesn't know I'm going to say this, but he will agree with me. What we are about to do on this podcast is wildly speculate what we think may have happened. There's a really good chance that Andy and I think two different things happened, and both of them are wrong. The reason is because I am not R-Truth. I am not Nick Khan. I am not Triple H. Andy, to my knowledge, is not R-Truth, Nick Khan, or Triple H.
I am little Jimmy, though.
So, well, you can't see him. It's fine. So, with that being said, we don't know what happened unless you are one of those three guys or someone very close to that. You probably don't know what happened. So, Andy, with that being said, let's speculate wildly. What do you think happened to cause R-Truth's surprise return in 6 days back to the WWE?
My gut instinct, my gut reaction is WrestleMania 40 all over again.
Okay.
They made a decision, and again, who knows who made that final decision? Who knows who had the final say in that? But they made the decision, and we've seen releases before, and we've seen people chant for releases, like on Monday night for a little bit, but not a whole lot. I mean, they were chanting Monday night. They were chanting Friday night. I think there was some chants on NXT on Tuesday.
There was definitely, yes.
And then during the pay-per-view itself on Money in the Bank, they were loud. And it wasn't just like a small group of people chanting it. It was the entire arena basically chanting, "We want truth."
Yep.
So my gut instinct is they listened. They heard the fans. They heard the outcry. They heard the backlash. They probably did not see that reaction coming, and their go-to instinct was to bring him back and to do this. I have a really hard time believing that this was a work. To me, that is dead last in possibilities is that it's a work. But I really do and I commend WWE for giving for listening to the fans and giving them what they want and bringing back truth and bringing back this new character. And, you know, the promo he cut tonight, everybody was loving every second of it. And so, yeah, I think that's my initial gut reaction is they listened to the fans, they heard the backlash, they jumped on it, and they made the change.
You think it happened that quickly, though? I mean, like, I honestly, like, I'm just curious because, like, I would obviously under a previous regime, if it was Vince McMahon and he released somebody, no, I'm sticking to my guns, blah, 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 whatever. And then again, you mentioned WrestleMania 40. We saw how quickly they pivoted from that pivot being the key word. So I guess it could have been that quick, but I don't know.
I think Aaron hit it right on the head. I think this one was different because the locker room was more vocal than before. And we talked about it last Monday. I don't think it was a good look on TKO and on WWE to make that decision and to even have, you know, I mean, we saw the picture of Rhea Ripley last week. She was wearing an R-Truth t-shirt backstage, and then she comes on screen and she wasn't allowed to wear it. So like they were intentionally trying to keep that away. And I feel like if that was the case, they would have informed at least your major talents what's going on. But like there were so many major talents that were backlashed and were up in arms about this decision. I really think that played a massive, massive role in getting truth back.
I definitely don't think it's a good look to work the boys, for lack of a better term. I don't think R-Truth would be, at least from what I know about him, I don't think he would have worked the boys because he's so close to all of them. However, I'm not saying that I think this happened. I'm just going to take what you said and play devil's advocate because I do have a couple of honestly pretty convincing, like I'm with you. Like before today, and you can and Aaron can even chime in the chat because he and I talked about it at work today. I just about went off at work today talking about this. I don't think the fans brought him back. I feel like there was some negotiations going on, but I ultimately did not think it was a work until I listened to Busted Open today. And here's why I will say that. Because look at the language that R-Truth used whenever he put his tweet out last week. He said he was released from WWE. And if you believe some of the reports that came out, which I'm not saying I do or I don't, we're saying that he was offered a new deal. He turned it down, or what have you. So the language there would lead you to believe that he got fired from WWE. However, very soon, I can't confirm a date because the date wasn't revealed. Very soon after R-Truth sent that tweet out, Mark Henry gave him a call. And Mark Henry and R-Truth are very close friends outside the business. Can confirm. Okay. Mark Henry gave him a call and offered him, hey, let's pick yourself back up. I've got some work for you in my federation in all Caribbean. We'll pay you X amount of dollars. Hey, I'll have you do my England tour. You can even do shows where you play your music and do wrestling, this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. He offered him all these things. And Truth, and he said Truth was open to all the things. He said he was getting a lot of offers from stuff that he would get back to Mark on for sure what he wanted to do. And that was the last that Mark talked to him. But what happened was that Mark kept calling him, and he had his people calling him and calling him. Radio silent until Saturday. And then he shows up. So if we're putting a couple of things together, one would lead you to believe that he worked Mark Henry, or that a contract was in place very early last week. Again, I don't know that to be true. I'm just trying to put some things together and say, well, this happened. What actually happened? I don't know.
Yeah. And I can see that. I think they're putting too much faith in. They didn't know what the crowd reaction was going to be. They didn't know what the fan reaction was going to be. They didn't know, there was just too much up in the air. I think there's too many variables to make me believe that this was planned. Or that, they were doing contract negotiations up until,
Yep.
Money in the Bank or whatever.
Yep.
I really believe after, again, seeing reports from people I trust and seeing everything that's going on, I believe they didn't see value in Truth. The fans and people backstage let them know how much more value he has than TKO realized. And credit to them, they pivoted, they backed up. We're using that word again. And they did what was right for Ron Killings. They did what was right for R-Truth. They did what was right for the fans. They did what was right for their talent. Because again, if you work your talent, then you're it's a double-edged sword of like, oh yeah, you got us. I'm never trusting you again though with anything. So like it's a very slippery slope to go down.
Yeah, I really don't think they worked the talent. I think, obviously, pun intended, the truth lies somewhere in between. And honestly, we're not going to know the truth until we hear it from Ron Killings, until we hear it from somebody from WWE. Because the other thing that gets me, and Aaron, I see your comment and you're dead on. I'm going to put it on the screen in just a second. The other thing that gets me is normally, Andy, when WWE releases talent, they make a statement about it. They're the ones that do it. Did we have anything about that with R-Truth? No.
We didn't with Carlito, though, either.
That's true. So that leads me again to believe, if I'm going by what I started this segment by saying, if WWE doesn't say it, yes, the talent said it, but then the talent showed back up 6 days later. Who's to say Carlito doesn't show up next week? Again, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
And,
well, I think Carlito's booked for other dates already. Like they've already made public. I think the difference is WWE announces releases. They don't announce when they let contracts run out.
They did with Dean Ambrose.
Yeah, but that was a special case because they didn't with Zoe. They didn't with Shotzi. They didn't with again Truth or Carlito or Sonya Deville. So like I think they do it with releases. They just don't do it with not upping contracts or not renewing contracts or whatever it is. But again, I don't neither one of us know the ins and outs of the situations. We don't know everything that's going on. All I know is R-Truth is back. Ron Killings is here. It seems like we're still going with the split personality with him, and we're getting the Ron Killings back, which I am totally fine with. I'm just excited to see, I'm excited to see what they do with Truth. I think they have something planned, hopefully, for him. And hopefully it's not just something to keep the fans happy and then just, going back to be R-Truth after like a month. I hope we get a really memorable run from him.
Cut a promo, cut his hair tonight. Aaron Grisham in the chat. Like I said, all I know is kayfabe is alive and well. Listen, everybody and their brother and their brother's brother is talking about R-Truth for the last week. So they're doing something right, whether they intended to or not. Got a newer live viewer in the chat, Dennis Durst, a former college professor of mine. Thank you for Dr. Durst for hopping on. If they make it look like the fans have that power, they are playing with fire. That is 100% truth, pun intended, because when situations start arising like that, we saw it with WrestleMania 40. Now we're seeing it with R-Truth. Fans don't get what they want. Like, what are we doing here, Andy? Like, we can't just, play favorites to the fans the whole time,
And I agree. I completely get it. But then they need to stop saying that the fans have the power. They need to stop saying that the fans are the ones that, make the decisions and give the people the opportunities and everything else. I agree. I think you need to stick with your plans.
Yes.
9 times out of 10. I think there are there are circumstances though where here we go again. It's okay to pivot.
Yeah.
Again, like WrestleMania 40, I think that pivot was necessary. Like that pivot had to happen. And I'm glad it did, because now looking back on it and knowing what we know about The Rock and seeing what we got from The Rock over the last 2 years, it's if we didn't get Cody getting that moment at WrestleMania 40, then I don't know what we would have got. So I don't like again. I think it's okay to pivot sometimes, but you got to stick through.
Yep.
Just because there's going to be backlash for Jey losing tonight doesn't mean you don't pull the trigger on Gunther if you have a story to continue to tell and to keep going forward.
Yeah. Again, Aaron says earlier that we don't say let them cook anymore. I say it, let them cook. Like let's figure it out. Let's just they're smart enough. To me, they have proven themselves, and we're gonna talk a little bit more about this on the Wednesday episode, because there's a lot of people who are saying, "Oh, can you WWE marks just admit that Triple H isn't a perfect booker?" Nobody said he was a perfect booker. Nobody said that.
Yeah.
The problem is they get more of the benefit of the doubt because they've proven themselves, and they've proved that they've been able to be adaptable, and they've proven that they can tell great stories. We just have to allow it to happen, because let's be honest. We talked about this last week. Truth isn't getting any younger. He's 52 years old. He's not going to be a full-time performer no matter where he goes. So in fact, they brought him back for a final run or for sporadic appearances. I mean, okay, awesome. Aaron brought it up and you brought it up earlier, the locker room morale, because Truth is back. Like, all of those things are really good things. I have a hard time thinking that Triple H and WWE and Nick Khan and TKO and whomever is making the decisions when it comes to this, I have a really hard time believing that they are so naive that they didn't think people would be upset about one of the most popular guys. If it was Vince, yes. But this group, like, I just don't think they would be that naive to think that people wouldn't be upset that a guy they just put in a huge spot, who is a fan favorite, who is a comedy guy, who everybody loves, they're not that naive that they wouldn't see backlash coming. To the extent that they got, maybe not.
Yeah.
But I have a hard time believing that.
I would agree with you if WrestleMania 40 didn't happen.
So you're saying that they didn't learn from it?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, I think they learned not to mess with top talent and not to mess with your main story going into your biggest show of the year. I think that they absolutely learned. But just doing something out of random, out of nowhere, just, cutting R-Truth and getting rid of R-Truth or whatever the story is, not signing his contract, not upping his contract.
Yeah.
Just doing that and then expecting, oh yeah, they'll be vocal Monday, but then by Tuesday they'll forget about it. Social media will die down. Friday, nobody will remember them. Saturday, we got this big thing going, blah, blah, blah. I don't think they realize sometimes the popularity behind certain talent.
Sure.
And the push behind certain talent. Again, another one that I know, I think we're going to find out pretty soon is the longer they keep carrying Cross off TV, the more people are going to become vocal. The more they keep putting LA Knight in these situations and dangling the keys in front of everybody and then pulling them away at the last second, people are going to become vocal. And that's a good thing. Like, I think that's what they want, is for people to become vocal. But if you do that too many times, then you poke the bear one too many times, and then you get the reactions you get, and then you sit back and go, I don't understand why people are acting this way, or why they're not just going along for the ride. Because you keep doing this over and over and over again. You can keep taking things away from fans until they get that satisfaction moment, like they tried to do with Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 30. They kept pulling it away. Fans hijacked everything, and we got the moment that everybody wanted. So I think they learned some of it. I don't think they still fully understand it at times.
Well, I think the part that we are all missing, and again, let's close up this R-Truth thing here because we got one more thing to hit before we sign off tonight. Let's close up this R-Truth thing here. I think what we haven't mentioned tonight, and what a lot of fans, for good reason, aren't acknowledging, is the fact that at the end of the day, this is a business.
Yeah.
TKO owns WWE. They're in the business of making money. And whether you can say that R-Truth has or does not have a return on investment, that's not for us to figure out because we don't see the profits and losses of TKO. The roster is probably totally different than the sponsorship. Everybody complaining about, oh, we got a new ring sponsor and we got Slim Jim on the tables and we got Fireball on the ladders, et cetera, et cetera. Guys, it's total. Those funds are totally separate. It's totally different divisions working over all of those things. And in order to make those profits and losses work, like they have to balance out. And this could be, listen, to TKO, Ron Killings is a line item. And I hate to be that blunt, but he is. You know, the same way that Karrion Kross is a line item. The same way that Kofi Kingston is a line item. The same way that Randy Orton is a line item. There's rumors floating around right now with all this going on that they're trying to cut Roman Reigns' contract. Guess what? Roman Reigns set them up huge. At the end of the day, he's a line item. And it is a business at the end of the day. As insensitive as that is, it's what we're dealing with.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're absolutely right. I mean, it's, you know, they're just trying to make the most money. And they're trying to gouge every penny out of us wrestling fans as much as they can with ticket prices and everything else and sponsorships and all. Like you're absolutely right about that. And it's just, I think that's, as fans, that's the hardest thing to come to terms with.
Yep.
Is like Triple H may care about the fans. TKO don't care. TKO does not care about the fans one bit because at the end of the day, we're just the cash grab for them. We're just the next thing to give them the most money that they can. UFC is the same way. And so, you know, I think that's why, I think part of the reason that's why fans were so vocal about Truth is because it's like, oh, no. Like, yeah, you may still, you know, you may be in charge, but if we still have some power, like we still have some sway, we still have some things to push back with. So I think the honeymoon phase is absolutely over. I think the honeymoon phase is completely done. And we're in the long haul now. And we're going to see the power struggle between the fans and the board. And I don't really know what to expect. I think it's going to be a wild, bumpy ride. And to be honest, WWE is going up. And at some point, you hit it and you come crashing back down. And this could be, I'm not saying it is, but it could be the early signs and stages of we're getting really close to that peak and we're going to, you know, start to see the decline here pretty quick.
Yeah, UFC is not as popular as it once was. And WWE is at its most popular right now, but you're right. At some point, it's the top of the mountain is going to come. I don't know when and what, but the top of the mountain's got to come. Couple more comments here real quick before we get out of here. Something we didn't mention that City Kitty brought up in the chat. Will they try to put Jey back with Big Jim? It's very interesting because we're not sure exactly what's happening with Big Jim. There was some teases of a bloodline reunion. We saw that seemingly dissipate. Well, at least one part of it at Money in the Bank. I mean, that's a possibility for Jey, right?
Yeah. And if they do get back together, they need to go right after New Day and completely flip those roles of heel New Day versus babyface Usos. I think that's money. I like singles Jey. I think it's time though to get him back with Jimmy and we run the Usos back. Not full time. I think he can bounce in and out and do both. But I think a tag run right now would be great for him.
I was really starting to get behind the singles run of Big Jim. Like I thought they were doing some cool stuff with him and he was starting to get some good reactions.
Yeah.
I was hoping for a US title run with him just to see what happens and see how people reacted to that. But nonetheless, hasn't happened yet. Not saying it's not going to. Hasn't happened yet. Dr. Durst back in the comments again. They brought back Bailey tonight, something that we haven't brought up yet. Andy, I'll be honest, I missed that part of Raw tonight. Do tell, give us some context for Bailey coming back, and where do you think they're going with that?
Well, I mean, we saw Becky come out and tried to antagonize Lyra again, saying she didn't put her whole heart into raising Becky's arm at the pay-per-view.
Of course.
Lyra comes out, and then Bailey comes in from behind. I don't know why we didn't do this at Money in the Bank.
Mhm.
I really don't know why we didn't have this happen at the show.
Yep.
Just another injustice against Bailey. But I'm excited. I think I think the most logical like where we're heading next is probably Becky versus Bailey at Evolution.
Yep.
For that
Evolution.
IC title.
Okay.
Maybe throw a stip on there, maybe like a ladder match, maybe, I put it in the cage, I don't know, something like that. But I do think that's where we are heading with those two. I hope Lyra doesn't just fall to the wayside, because she's done a really good job in this Becky feud of building herself up.
Yep.
I would love to see that kind of continue. But I do think we moved on to the next chapter of it being Becky versus Bailey.
I agree. All right. That is going to do it for tonight's live show. We appreciate you guys being with us. Again, this is a new format that we're trying. Normally, Andy and I would just be chopping at the bits to keep going here and to go live, but we are going to break this up and bring you another new episode Wednesday night. You see it right there on the ticker. 10:30 Eastern time is when it will drop, wherever you find your podcast, and of course on the YouTube channel. Drop your comments and questions on that episode as well as this episode. If you're listening back, not live, again, you can drop those comments and questions. We would appreciate it. And for the love of everything that is good, if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, please do it. It would help us so much. It doesn't cost you a thing. Andy, they need to subscribe to the podcast. What are the 2 episodes a week? What more can you ask for?
For real. I mean, you need to subscribe. The truth will set you free. Subscribing to Squared Circle Radio will set you free as well. And we promise you're not just a number line to us or a cash grab to us. We love our fans. You have the power. I promise you that.
Oh my goodness. I love it so much. All right. Follow us on social media if you haven't already. Andy is at Andy_SQR and I am at Chris Belcher 24. The show is at SQ_radio on all social media platforms. So come hang out with us there and then be with us this coming Wednesday as we drop a brand new episode. Shout out to our partners at WSN and at Sportswire Radio, Tom Bryce and the crew over there. We can't thank them enough for their support. Jared is not with us tonight, but I would be remiss if I didn't shout out Gabe and Sean, the Hideaway Boys, 2 locations in my hometown of Pikeville, Kentucky. We appreciate their support of the podcast as well. That's the Young Buck Andy York, and my name is Chris Belcher. Thank you so much for being with us on this edition of Squared Circle Radio. We will catch you guys down the road.